Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Decision Hour. I am your host, Adam Bird, and we are continuing on with the series of Let's Have a Conversation. And of course, I cannot have this conversation without my buddy, John. John, how are you, my friend?
I am awesome. Doing friggin' great. I'm stuck in quarantine over here in Baghdad.
Oh, jeez.
I came in from the States recently, and so I got to do 14 days in my room. But I'm good.
Well, let's dive into last episode. We started off this series of Let's Have a Conversation with the founding principles. This topic today that we're going to talk about is my solution, and I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. What do we mean by my solution? What are we talking about?
What can we do about it? So, if you don't like the direction that the country has gone, which I think we laid out a pretty decent case, although definitely an incomplete case, right, for the fact that we have definitely gotten away from our founding principles as a people,
right.
The things we pay attention to, and our government has gotten very, very far away from the founding principles, gotten very far away from the Constitution. We discussed a little bit of this before, how the administrative state has grown and now has virtually, the EPA or something has got all three branches of government right within itself.
Right.
They make the regulation, they enforce the regulation, and then they adjudicate problems. So I say all that to say that we are the ones who did this. So we like to sit on our, in front of the TV and cuss at what's being said, and that person's an idiot. We like to get on social media and post memes and make comments with our solutions for the entire world, right? But what we haven't done, my sense is that what we don't do as a people. And I mean it collectively, look in the mirror and say, well, wait, what part did we play in this? And we played a huge part, a huge part. Well, then you got to look yourself in the mirror as an individual and say, okay, what can I do? What can I do to try to turn this train around, or at least to affect it?
Let me ask you this, John. Do you feel that I've certainly felt this way? I'm going to call myself out on this, is that I think there's been times where it's like, I don't like a certain situation, but what can I actually do that's going to help change, or that's actually going to change anything? What difference does it make if I go to the voting booth? And I would think, or I would hope, that people would get into the mindset of, if I do it, then there's probably several hundred or thousands or even millions of other people that might feel the same way that I do. And if they actually took that step and did something, you could change everything. But it always starts with one, right?
It does. And, soccer mom, sitting at home, doing her day-to-day life, and she's busy, and she might wonder, what can I do? I'm a busy mom,
Yeah.
I got a lot of things going on. Well, there's a whole lot you can do within your own social circle. You can connect with people that do have like mind, or you can at least have a conversation with people who maybe don't agree with you.
Right.
Have conversations. And I think, first of all, one of our first responsibilities, one of our first actions is going to be take a look at ourselves. Okay. I want to tell a quick story. When I went to, I grew up in a Christian household. I went to a Christian school in elementary school. And so I had a very well-established set of beliefs and things when I went to college. So I go to college, and along with most of the rest of the classroom, we had a established set of beliefs. And we roll in there, and the professor proceeds to say something that amounted to, well, right here in this scripture is where Christ is denying his divinity. And of course, everybody's like, oh, the whole class is like, you're crazy, you're insane. And he goes, well, defend yourself, defend your position. And we all kind of sat there and went, I don't know. I don't really know why I believe that. So I tell that story, and bottom line, he was challenging us to think, challenging us to defend our beliefs, to understand what we actually believe. So I think that would be step one. One, take care of yourself and just make sure that you're of healthy mind and body, right? And that sounds silly. That sounds self-evident, but sometimes we don't take care of ourselves. Try to have a healthy mind. Try to have a healthy family. Have healthy relationships. But then understand your belief system. Why do you believe whatever the thing might be?
Right.
Why do you believe that abortion is wrong? Why do you believe that racism is wrong? Why do you believe that, et cetera, et cetera? All these different beliefs that we might hold. Understand them. And then have a conversation. And you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have a doctorate in something. No. I don't have a graduate degree. And I don't really consider myself to be an expert. All our conversation is based off of my own reading and studying and thinking, trying to think for myself and get the opinions of other people and stuff. But have a conversation with your little world.
Right.
And that's how, in Loudoun County, Virginia, that's how all those folks started showing up at school boards. That's exactly how it happened. And those people are just parents. They're not anybody special in the sense of having any kind of particular power or anything, other than they are the people, and our government is supposed to govern at the consent of the governed,
right? Which
is one of our founding principles.
It'd be nice if more people thought critically, or did I say that right?
You did.
Okay,
well, so yeah,
critical thinking, meaning you're not, you get upset because you see what's going on and you're like, well, I'm not a sheep, I'm not this, I'm not that. Great. Share why you feel that way. I've got some friends that are kind of on the fence. I've got some that are not even in the ballpark, and I got ones that are in the ballpark, but they're kind of up in the nosebleed section, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. And I say all that. I don't have any idea where any of those analogies just came from, but whatever. It was. I say all that because I've asked people, like, what makes you think that? I'll give you a prime example. Recently, here's an example of the critical thinking. We have the 9/11 is 20 year is happening this year, and there was a certain way that I thought about what happened on that particular day for the longest time, and I was educated this week that totally debunked everything that I thought. Not everything, but I would say 90% of what I thought that happened on that day was debunked with solid evidence that somebody was at ground zero. That was there. He was a New York firefighter. Who's unfortunately dying of cancer and has no reason to lie about any of it. And I say all of that, but he said, that's a great question. He's like, most people won't even, the questions that I was asking, he actually appreciated. And I've wanted to ask him for the longest time, and I was always kind of afraid to, because it's just one of those things, right? And he thanked me for asking the questions, because it was like, one, it helped him because he liked talking about this stuff, but two, it was like, it's nice to hear people actually thinking about different scenarios of what potentially could have happened, or this, that, and the other. He's like, the problem is no one's talking about it.
Right.
And I use that example because I think that ties into with the Let's Have the Conversation, the series that we're in right now, is having the conversation. More importantly, this particular episode is solutions, your solution, my solution. And that's what John said earlier, is what's your solution? One, first and foremost, think for yourself. And two, your solution should be not only thinking for yourself, but think critically and then turn around and do something about it.
Right. And a lot of folks, that's the stage or the step that I think a lot of people have a lot of trouble with because, the vast majority of Americans are not in public life. The vast majority of Americans have no desire to run for office. The vast majority of Americans kind of see politics as this ugly thing, which it is. But I would say take that next step however you can take it. So my step was to, first of all, brush up my knowledge, which I had a decent amount of knowledge, but geez, I mean, I've really dived in here over the past, several months, and I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
But my solution is to do this show, because I work in Iraq. I work with like-minded people. Right. I'd be preaching to the choir, at least in my everyday office. I'm just preaching to the choir. But this is the way that I can connect with Semper Savage, the salad dressing / marinade company that Stacy and I have. I don't want to taint it with a lot of politics and rhetoric and stuff. Right. So I try to keep that very neutral. But now I'm coming on here just as John Curry, and so I'm trying to engage and widen an audience, writing articles on LinkedIn. That's a good way to,
which you'll be able to see on HMG here this weekend as well, or the start of the weekend that we're recording this. But I think we to kind of give people the background. If you didn't listen to the first episode of this series, go back and listen to it. Founding principles, and I think it's important that just the conversation. Let's have a conversation. That's what John and we named this series. Let's have a conversation, because we felt like it's important for you, the listeners, to go out and educate yourself on everything that's going on. Quite frankly, don't listen to just CNN. And I'm not going to talk bad about any one or two or maybe seven that are owned by the same media company, whatever, mainstream media outlet, because they all suck, in my opinion, and I can say that because I own the network. So I think they're horrible, and I think the biggest problem with that is I equate it to this: military people that are out there that are listening, veterans that have been in the military, you know what I'm talking about. We are living in the world's largest PSYOP operation to date.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from that perspective, now all of a sudden shit just got real.
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument from me, and I honestly believe, based on just my interactions, that there are a lot of people who are starting to believe that and see that. We might have mentioned on the previous show, that Tucker Carlson announced on his show that he had been, that the NSA, I believe, had been spying and had his texts, and they have proof. The whole thing about the election last fall, when some questions were asked, when some things were brought up, it was suppressed and ignored and not allowed to be. To this day, if you post something that talks about voter fraud,
you get a fact checker that comes in and checks your facts.
Right. You get a statist fact checker who comes in.
Can I say this, John, real quick?
Yeah.
The facts checkers, now that that somebody felt the need that we need that in society, that's the dumbest shit that I've ever seen. And forgive me, folks, because it's I've been my lips are a little loose today because this is a topic that it's like poking a sleeping bear, right?
Get you fired up.
Yeah, like what's going to happen? I'm guessing the end result is not going to end well for you, and that's kind of the same here. I mean, John and I, we're being very mellow right now, but like there's a rage I know inside of both of us right now where it's just like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, you know.
No, it's so you speak to that, and I think a lot of Americans are getting angry.
Yeah.
And
they should.
As they should.
Yeah.
If you're not angry with the things that are, and I don't care which side of the spectrum you're on,
right?
But if you're not angry about some of these things, and I mean, there's a host, everything from the surveillance state, which is absolutely going on, to spending money that we don't have in the trillions, to open borders and some of these things. I mean, every American should be unhappy.
Yeah.
About those.
You know, there was a big thing with like, oh, Biden's going to pay off or forgave everybody's student loans, and then it turned around and they decided not to do that, and then something came out about this administration's going to, bring up the minimum wage, or we want to pay people more, but we can't find the money to do that. Here, I'm going to tell you where you find the money. You stop with foreign aid.
Yeah.
And stop giving other people to come to go to school in our universities here for free. I guarantee the money's there. You just have to redirect it and all of those stuff. And I say all that because you said people should be mad. You should be mad. That should piss you off. There's probably people, in fact, I can think of 5 off the top of my head. Excuse me. You get me worked up. I have 5 off the top of my head that wanted to go to college, that didn't go to college because they didn't want to take out the student loans first and foremost, and then they didn't have the money, they couldn't afford to do it. But then you have all these other people they're coming here for free, and they're doing this and they're doing that.
Right.
Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Well, anytime government gets involved in anything to include education, look at the correlation between federal money being involved in higher education and the...
You can't put education and government in the same sentence and have it make sense.
No, and so, to be perfectly straightforward with the audience, I am an absolute minimal government Jeffersonian type thinker.
Yeah.
I really do believe that the government that governs least governs best. Now, I do recognize some of Madison's nightmares about the tyranny of the mob. I understand. So governments are made up of people, and so we've got to watch them carefully and keep power divided. But the populace is also made out of people.
But yeah, you just said the tyranny of the mob.
Yeah,
that sounded like the government to me.
Well, so all right. Remember what we talked about last time?
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. The governments between state and federal accounts for over 50% of our economy right now.
Jeez.
And it's growing. There's approximately somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 million people who work for the government. Now, they produce stuff for the government. Hell, I work for the government right now. I've worked for the government my whole life, really.
Yeah.
Marine Corps, got out, civilian at headquarters Marine Corps, and now I work as part of the State Department. So I've worked for the government my whole life. It doesn't mean these are bad people. And that,
right.
And that
no, I'm certainly not saying that. Right.
Don't do anything of value, but it is alarming. Department of Education. My personal belief is that government has zero business in education. That's just one example, and you could look at all of those agencies. The government doesn't have any business surveilling us. It was done it was done very sneaky, but Americans lost more freedom in the Patriot Act under George W. Bush than at any time in history. So that's just of note. All those things that we permitted the government to do to keep us safe which if you hear that phrase, keep you safe, it should get your hackles up. The hair on the back of your neck should be standing up, because that power will never go away. So, but this is just what's happened, and we're sort of, laying out some things that have occurred. But what can people do? How can we? How do you attack? How do you attack and dismantle over 50% of the U.S. economy? How do we get the administrative state tamped down?
And I think that's a hard question to answer, because I think you have so many people who are career politicians that have created laws to help better, one, their pocket, and two, give them job security.
Yeah. So this is, keep in mind what we just talked about with the government being over 50% of the economy, and the administrative state, and 20-ish million people who in some way, shape, or form have an interest in the government continuing to be large and big and have big budgets, keep their pet projects going.
Right. But eventually that's going to run out. You could have listen, I hear what you're saying. I respect what you're saying. But it concerns me that the number's that high, because I up until this very moment, I didn't realize it was that high. But you look at these government people, and I look at like the agencies and stuff like that. Are there a need for Homeland and some of these other ones? Absolutely, sure. Absolutely. I'm not debating that. Are there some for like CIA and some of these other ones? I'm sure. Let me back up. I'm sure there's agencies out there that people question whether or not we need them. And then if they run its course, dismantle it like they do with the military units and stuff like that, and then move forward with a different mission. I look at government as the sneaky politicians that are up there making the final decisions, and whether or not they're technically making the final decisions or whatnot, they're the ones that we see on our TV screens. We hear them on our radios, making decisions and talking about things that, there's a reason why you have this person over here talking about this, and then over here you have this person objecting to what this person just said, and then it goes into a back and forth into a shit show. Or at least that's what we see when the cameras are on. Now, I can tell you for certain that most of the time when the cameras are off, these people are having drinks together, laughing, and they're friends. But when the camera's on, it's a big dog and pony show. I've seen it. I've been down to the Hill. I've been to parties at such that have seen this happen. What's the point that I'm trying to make in all this?
Well, can I jump in?
Yeah, I wish you would.
Because it sounds like the point I think you're getting ready to go toward is the government has gotten so large that it's serving its own interest. Now, keep in mind what I was just mentioned about how large it is, right, in terms of numbers and in terms of its impact on our economy. When the government gets larger than us, the people, we've got a problem.
Big.
Literally big problem. But we're going to lose freedom. We already lost freedom, but we are going to lose all semblance of freedom. So we started this whole conversation, this whole series with founding principles. There are people, a lot of them, who honestly believe that our founding principles were wrong, that our Constitution is bad. I'll just use that word. And that we need to remake America in the image of, I'm not sure what, but there are a lot of people who really believe that. So what can we do? What is the solution? What does the individual do? What does John Curry do? What does a soccer mom do? What does a guy who has to slug it into DC every day to go work in some desk someplace, but he believes in founding principles and is alarmed by what he sees.
I think you educate yourself on what are your other options. Take communism. Communism, if you dissect communism, it would almost be perfect if human beings were not involved in it at all. Humans mess it up, and
humans mess everything up because we're imperfect.
So, and that's why communism will never work. Marxism, and I look at social and people. I know there's a bunch of people out there. What the hell did Adam just say?
What did he just say?
I had this conversation with my 18-year-old, and he explained what he had learned about it, and we were just trying to have this conversation where I wasn't being, Big Bird and listening to Little Bird about this and that, and I wanted his point of view on it. And what scared me is that what he said made sense. And then he's like, but then I'm sitting there like, holy shit, my son's going to be a communist. He's going to be this, that. Like I went far down the rabbit hole in the wrong direction. And at the very end of it, he looks at me and says, but it'll never work. And do you know why, Dad? And I said, why? He's like, because we're human and we're morons. And he's like, we screw everything up. Somebody will screw it up. And that's why it'll never, ever work. Ever. And he's like, Russia, and then he starts educating me. Russia had it coming, and it never worked. You look at China, communist coming, Venezuela. Look at all of the countries where they've tried it, and it's gone horribly wrong.
Yep. There is so all these folks, and I'll just point to some of the politicians. The Omars and the ideas behind the Obamas, the AOCs, the Schumers, these folks that hate our country, and they want to remake it, and there is Marxism at the heart of what they do, which is one of the most historically is the most murderous ideology that mankind ever devised. Yep. It is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions in the 20th century alone.
Oh yeah.
We don't even know how many, because many people were just disappeared and are, in graves out in the tundra and in the jungles of Cambodia and Vietnam. But everywhere that ideology has come, it has been murderous. Pol Pot killed approximately 20% of the Cambodian population.
I want to add to that. Look at those of you that are listening. Look at modern day China, and the prisons that they have there. They're not fans of. I just lost it. They're not fans of really any religion.
Due process. Religion.
I'm telling you, the religion side of it. If you look at Muslims, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Muslims in Chinese prisons, but you'll never see it on the news. You have to go look for that information,
right?
And that's China, communist country.
Yeah. So so let me make another point that I make all the time, because it was made to me so starkly. But if we can't. So I had the opportunity to serve in Kosovo and the Balkans in 1999. If you think it can't happen here, Americans, you are so dead wrong. First, let's look at our own history. We fought a revolution. We fought a war on our own soil. We were invaded during the War of 1812. We had the bleeding Kansas bit. Out in the Midwest during the 1850s, I believe. We had fought a civil war.
Yeah.
That's just internally. So if you think it can't happen here, not only can it, but it has. Things have gotten out of hand, and some really bloody events have happened. But the story goes like this: Sarajevo had the Winter Olympics in '88, somewhere around there.
Yeah, yeah.
Sarajevo had the Winter Olympics. I believe it was 8 years later. Sarajevo was a killing field. The city of Sarajevo went from having the Winter Olympics, the height of chic and cool, and with it, and less than a decade later,
wiped out.
Yep, by ethnic cleansing. And I'm here to tell you, folks, if you think that's not where we are going now, and this should scare the ever-living shit out of every listener, if you think that we are not becoming balkanized, you are a fool.
I've said this. I've been blessed to do entertainment for the latter part of a decade now. And I've said on many shows, and I'm going to say it here today, that I've said that we are turning into a third world country. And let me before, because I know some of you out there are like, what the? Maybe not to the extreme of what you have seen or John and I have seen, or even where John's at right now, as an example.
Yeah.
But the mindset of where we are going is heading that direction, and has been for the last 25 years or so. And I'd argue to say it's been longer than that.
Yeah.
And I say that with this is like, as John said, if you don't think this could happen to us, it's happening right now in small forms and pockets of things.
Yeah.
It is happening right now. I said earlier that this year marks the 20-year anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were on 9/11? I certainly do.
I do.
I'll never. That day changed my life.
Yeah, I think it changed thousands, maybe more.
Yeah.
It changed tens of thousands of lives. You and I served in 2 more wars.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Yeah.
We both Iraq and Afghanistan, I think were I think if 9/11 hadn't happened, I don't think we would have had Iraq. And think of all the guys who served in war during that time. It changed a lot of lives.
Yeah.
Think of all the Gold Star moms and all that. But I'll tell you what, like, I'm over here now. We'll never leave unless I don't. We're not going to be able to really leave.
We'll have some type of presence there.
It's something. We're getting ready to leave Afghanistan. And somebody asked me not too long ago. I was back home. Sorry, I keep my phone keeps buzzing, and Stacey and I have an interview after this, and there was some question about the time. At any rate, but I lost my train of thought.
You were back home. You just recently, somebody asked you a question. You were back home.
Yeah, they were just asking me about how are things over in Iraq and whatnot, and current administration is extremely weak. I don't think anybody would dispute that.
Right.
And almost immediately, the Iranians. So the Iranians own Iraq. The Iranians have infiltrated the government. The Iranians have infiltrated all of the Shiite militias, some of which we have trained and equipped. It's just it's a disaster. It's a friggin' disaster. Last year, I believe it was last fall, might have been the fall before, might have been 2 years ago. Over the course of about three or 4 months, we had over 30,000 Iraqi citizens killed and disappeared during some protests over some things that the government was doing. That's how they roll. That's how they roll.
And do we see any of that here in the States?
Well,
no.
Look at all the doggone BLM riots and stuff.
Well, I'm saying, did we see? Well, yeah, okay. So I'm glad you brought that up. I'm saying, did we see anything that's happening to these people over here in the States? No.
No,
we didn't.
right?
We're not seeing. Does it affect us directly? Most news organizations. Well, that's not news. Well, it is, and it's something that we need to be aware of what's going on so it doesn't happen here. Here's the solution, John. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What if we were to bring all of our military, everybody, back from every foreign base that we've ever had, Korea, Germany, Italy, Africa. We bring all of our troops back to the United States, and we stop playing Big Brother to the world, and we just based everybody here in the United States.
Yeah.
Would that be a good solution, do you think?
No. And here's why. I'll defend myself real quick. Because there's evil in the world. It's kind of like, I look at it kind of like this. We are way over involved in the world. Right. There is no reason that NATO countries who tell us how we suck because we don't have free healthcare and free college, yet we're paying for their defense.
Right.
There's no way that should be happening.
Right.
Yeah, no shit. You can have free college and free healthcare. We're paying for your defense.
Right. We're cutting the
out
bill.
of your mind.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's kind of like the government. Our involvement in the world is kind of like the government. We should be smaller, but we still got to stay engaged because there's evil people in the world, and
all right, I could see that.
We want to stay engaged, whether it's diplomatically. Well, military. Were you in the peacetime military, or did you come in after 9/11?
No, I came in. I was in peacetime. I came in 98.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't come in that much before you. I came in 92, and but I spent my whole first deployment, my whole first float we're basically diplomats.
Right.
You know, it's you go ashore, you liaise with the people, you go do some exercises with some friendly countries, that's, and it's great training and everything, but vastly different from, all right, boys, let's saddle up. We're going to Afghanistan, or we're going to Iraq, or we're going to Kosovo. We'll be there in 30 days. We're riding the ship over. Hope you got a will made out. That's a huge difference. But the American military is very much a peaceful, almost strong diplomatic presence.
Right.
It doesn't have to. It's not necessarily always there to kick ass. We've got a good relationship with Germany. We've got bases all over there. England, of course. We've got stuff stored in Norway in case the Russians come over the border. It allows you to build. We do exercises down
Poland,
down in everywhere. Yeah. Any friendly country we can. Down in Australia, the West Coast guys go down there. They love it. Marine Corps West Coast guys. Right. So I wouldn't say completely pull back, bring everybody back inside our borders, like say before World War I, or even World War II. I mean, we were out there a little bit, but we were pretty isolationist, and I think the world is small enough now, particularly with ballistic missiles and things like that are supersonic. The world is a lot smaller now in terms of being able to reach out and touch a foe.
Yeah.
And
and I say that because I looked at that as a potential solution to everything going on and us being military guys and veterans ourselves. Folks,
yeah, so I think, Adam, I honestly believe that everything bears. It's like when you got a family budget,
yeah,
and you just had a huge expense. I just had one, an unplanned expense. But let's say you have a rotted sill plate on your house, and it's going to cost $20,000 to freaking get get it all fixed up. Jeez. And you can't do it yourself because you work in Iraq. Right. But let's say you've got one of those, right? Well, you've got to look through your budget and you've got to say, okay, where can I maybe cut some corners, or I'm not going to buy this now. I'm going to have to put those efforts toward. I think that's the way we should look at our foreign aid and and our internal aid. I mean, God bless America. We throw a lot of money at a lot of really bad programs, and that's kind of getting back to the whole discussion about the administrative state. We've got agencies that are doing duplicate things with a whole infrastructure, equipment, and all that.
And we're going to be talking about that in one of these conversations episode about admin states as well. John, we're coming up on time, so I want to bring it around to solutions. I'm going to say this and wrapping up. I'll let you get the final word before we go to a closing here. Is I think the big thing is solutions, how you can get involved, educate yourselves. I'm going to put a book out there. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to today. There's a book, and we were talking, and I'm saying this because we were on the topic. We had talked about communism and China and what's going on, and how honestly all of that ties into what's going on in our country today.
Yeah,
there's a book called The 100-Year Marathon. I've read it 3 times now, and you want to talk about something that's very eye-opening. The Chinese they've always wanted to be the world dominant country, and they're set to do so by 2042, I believe. Don't quote me on the year, but we're over almost 3/4 of the way of that right now. And it goes back and it tells you when it started, and then you see their progress. It's really kind of a textbook of what they're doing to get to where they want to go, and we're living it. We are seeing it, play out in front of our eyes. And you know what they say, folks? The easiest way to hide something is right out in the open. I encourage you all to, if you guys, those of you that are readers or even audiobooks and whatnot, take a listen or read that book. And there, I'm not getting paid to push that or anything like that. This isn't a paid anything like that. It was just a book that I found, and it ties in with this conversation of solutions. But it helped me make some of the solutions that I make now today, knowing what I know now because of that book. So anyway, John, to you.
I tell you what, you were talking about reading, and I want to make everybody aware of, there's some really, really good resources out on the web, just in YouTube. But I'm telling you, if you want to learn about the Constitution, if you want to learn about founding principles and the way that all of that relates to our present day situation, there's a lot of videos done by Hillsdale College.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's first rate, absolutely first rate. But yeah, I want to encourage everybody to take that opportunity to understand your own belief system, to be able to defend it, so that when you go out, whether it's at the soccer field or the baseball stadium or something, that when you have a conversation with, or just in the neighborhood, if you have a conversation with somebody, that you're able to have a cogent argument and defend your own belief system. Further than that, I really want to encourage people to get off your butt, get out of the house, and engage in whatever way you can. I would certainly encourage people, if they want to run for town council or something, I would highly encourage you to do so. If you want to run for Senate, U.S. Senate, I would highly encourage you to do so. But if you're not of that ilk, I would encourage you to get involved with a campaign. It could be just as simple as going down to your local American Legion or VFW or something, having a beer and just shooting the breeze with the guys.
Yeah.
It can really be that simple, and get involved with the community, get involved with, the Salvation Army. I mean, that's a fantastic organization that does good work. And I say all of this, I'm saying get involved, make things better. But if I just want to encourage people to have conversations that are uncomfortable, political conversations about third rail items.
Yep.
Things like abortion, things like welfare, things like the police state that is growing, things like racism. I think that really needs to be talked about in an intelligent way, which is absolutely not being done.
Right.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
At any rate, I just want to encourage people to get engaged. Come start your own podcast. Do Instagram and Facebook lives, and just put your ideas out there. Prepare yourself. Put your ideas out there. Get engaged. And we need people running for school boards. We need people showing up at town council meetings and objecting to things that people don't agree with, because it is while it is true that the proverbial shit rolls downhill from the federal government on down, the best thing that a person can do to affect themselves in terms of government is to be involved in your local politics. We were conceived as a very local government system, federalist system that starts very local, really with the family, then to the town, then to the county, and then to the state level, and then to the federal level. It rolls uphill,
right,
just as much as it rolls downhill. And you can see that happening now with Texas deciding that they're going to seal off the border, or at least exploring sealing off the border. They're stepping up, they're stepping up for themselves. That's just one of many examples. Counties doing Second Amendment sanctuary status, which I wish we didn't have to do that kind of crap, but hey, they're standing up for an unalienable God-given right as laid out in the Constitution.
As always, my friend, I appreciate it.
I do too.
That was good. Absolutely loved it, folks. We're talking about solution. Well, what's your solution? And it's part of the series of Let's Have a Conversation. This is our second episode in this series, and we have we're quickly creating more and more topics to discuss for this conversation. We may have well over a dozen by the time this is all said and done. So, and good. This is an important topic, we feel. And listen, I want to put this out there. If you guys got questions or something that you would like us to have a conversation about, send Adam. Go to Adam at heroesmediagrp.com. Send me an email, or go to the Heroes Media Group website. Go to the Heroes Media Group on all the social media platforms. You'll find us Heroes Media GRP out there. Send us a message and just say, hey, heard the Decision Hour show with you and John. I'd love for you guys to talk about X, Y, Z, whatever the case may be. We definitely love to hear from you.
We'll take it on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. That's all the time that we have today, folks. Again, check it out. If you got something that you want us to discuss, go to heroesmediagroup.com. Also, check out all the shows, events, and stuff that's coming up this fall over there. heroesmediagroup.com. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.